You know, I've often said that the easiest way to spot a lie is to look at the people demanding you believe it. And nothing proves that more than the radical gender ideology sweeping the West like a moral plague. It's not about inclusion. It's not about kindness. It's not about protecting the vulnerable. No. It's about power. It's about who gets to dictate reality and who's forced to nod along like some hypnotized cult member, lest they lose their job, their reputation, or even their freedom. J.K. Rowling, the famed author of Harry Potter, one of the most successful and beloved writers of all time, has spent years exposing this fraud, and she's been vilified, canceled, and smeared for daring to say what was once common sense. Men are men. Women are women. And the rights and safety of women must never be sacrificed on the altar of some twisted, pseudoscientific ideology. And earlier this week, she put out a statement so blisteringly accurate, so unapologetically true, that it deserves to be read in full. So let me do just that. Here's what J.K. Rowling had to say. This "why do you care about a tiny fraction of the population" line is and always was utterly ridiculous. Gender ideology has undermined freedom of speech, scientific truth, gay rights, and women's and girls' safety, privacy, and dignity. It's also caused irreparable physical damage to vulnerable kids. Nobody voted for it. The vast majority of people disagree with it. Yet it has been imposed, top-down, by politicians, healthcare bodies, academia, sections of the media, celebrities, and even the police. Its activists have threatened and enacted violence on those who dare oppose it. People have been defamed and discriminated against for questioning it. Jobs have been lost and lives have been ruined, all for the crime of knowing that sex is real and matters. When the smoke clears, it will only be too evident that this was never about a so-called vulnerable minority, notwithstanding the fact that some very vulnerable people have been harmed. The power dynamics underpinning our society have been reinforced, not dismantled. The loudest voices throughout this entire fiasco have been people insulated from consequences by their wealth and/or status. They aren't likely to find themselves locked in a prison cell with a 6'4" rapist who's decided his name's now Dolores. They don't need state-funded rape crisis centers, nor do they ever frequent high-street changing rooms. They simper from talk show sofas about those nasty far-right bigots who don't want penises swinging around the girls' showers, secure in the knowledge that their private pool remains the safe place it always was. Those who've benefited most from gender identity ideology are men, both trans-identified and not. Some have been rewarded for having a cross-dressing kink by access to all spaces previously reserved for women. Others have parlayed their delicious new victim status into an excuse to threaten, assault, and harass women. Non-trans identified lefty bros have found a magnificent platform from which to display their own impeccably progressive credentials by jeering and sneering at the needs of women and girls, all while patting themselves on the back for giving away rights that aren't theirs. The actual victims in this mess have been women and children, especially the most vulnerable. Gay people who've resisted the movement and paid a horrible price, and regular people working in environments where one misplaced pronoun could see you vilified or constructively dismissed. Do not tell me this is about a tiny minority. This movement has impacted society in disastrous ways, and if you had any sense, you'd be quietly deleting every trace of activist mantras and ad hominem attacks, false equivalents, and circular arguments from your X feeds, because the day is fast approaching when you'll want to pretend you always saw through the craziness and never believed it for a second. Absolutely brilliant, brutal, devastating, and 100% correct. So why does it take a billionaire to say something so obvious? And why have I dedicated an entire weekly segment on my radio program to defending women from this madness? Well, stick around, because the answer to that question is the answer to what's truly at stake here. J.K. Rowling is right, and history will vindicate her. That's the first thing that needs to be said. Not only has she withstood years of slander and character assassination, but she's done so with a level of moral clarity and courage that has exposed her critics as the cowardly, unthinking ideologues that they are. And what does she get in return for defending the truth? Death threats, calls for boycotts, public denunciations from the very actors who owe their entire careers to the Harry Potter franchise. Her crime? Saying that women exist, that their safety matters, that words like mother and woman are not up for debate. This is why for the last 4 years I've dedicated a segment every Thursday just before 5 p.m. called In Defense of Women. Because someone has to say it. Because when women's spaces are erased, when biological men dominate women's sports, when convicted rapists get sent to women's prisons simply by uttering a few magic words, I identify as a woman. Someone has to stand up and say enough. And let's be very clear. This movement is not about protecting a tiny fraction of the population. That's the lie they tell you to shut you up. No. This ideology has captured the institutions, our schools, our hospitals, our media, even our legal system. And it's done so without a single Democratic vote. It has silenced critics with the threat of social and financial ruin. It has rewritten language to the point where even saying women give birth is considered hate speech. Rowling said it best. The people who push this ideology do not suffer the consequences of it. They don't share locker rooms with men claiming to be women. They don't rely on women's shelters, rape crisis centers, or single-sex prisons. No. They sip lattes in their gated communities, smugly congratulating themselves on how progressive they are, while ordinary women bear the brunt of their insanity. And let's not forget the children. The countless young girls and boys being fast-tracked into life-altering medical interventions before they even understand what's happening to them. The kids are being told that their natural feelings of discomfort with puberty means they must be chemically sterilized. The ones who will wake up in 10 years, bodies permanently altered, and ask, why did no one stop this? Well, I did. J.K. Rowling did. And every Thursday just before 5 p.m., this show, The Richard Syrett Show, will continue to do so. Because truth matters. Reality matters. And most of all, women matter. Even if saying so makes you an enemy of the state. Hey, this is Richard Syrett. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe.